from the Joy News Center. This is News at 8.
Welcome to the Primetime Bulletin here on Joy News on Multi TV. Coming up, interim management body to superintend activities of Jada as Yoko and others are tasked to take up prosecution of persons found culpable in investigative report. President Mahama meets security chiefs ahead of Supreme Court ruling, but the Information Ministry has downplayed it is linked with the ruling. We'll also bring you preparations for the big day. In other news, the Public Accounts Committee chides GPHA and railway company over poor managerial practices. And first, 10-year locally listed Eurobond now tradable on the Ghana Stock Exchange. That's business with Abigail Adomokwenchi, who comes up a lot later. Also, we also have sports, showbiz, and international news coming up.
News at 8 with Israel Lai.
Very first story, an interim managerial body would man affairs of the Ghana Youth Employment and Entrepreneurial Development Agency, Jada, until the security agencies tasked by government to handle the matter are through with their work. Deputy Information and Media Relations Minister Felix Kwakye-Fosu, at today's briefing at the presidency, will not provide any details, saying they are in the released report, which he says is now in circulation.
The Deputy Minister confirmed a Ghanaian Times publication that government has handed over responsibility of matters concerning the Jada report to the Economic and Organised Crime Office (EOCO), the Attorney General's Department, and the Police Criminal and Investigative Department. Probed for additional information, Felix Kwakye-Fosu dropped vague hints about actions to be taken on the report.
Well, but the actions are contained in the action paper. It's in the system. Some have it. There are issues of institutional reform and other recommendations. The action paper clearly details what government wants to do. A ministerial review in terms of ownership of Jada is something that will be considered when the Jada bill comes to be prepared, so that it will have legislative backing. But an interim management committee will be put in place to oversee the activities of Jada until proper formal structures are put in place. That is after the review has been carried out and after there's a legislative framework within which it can operate. Yes, the actions contained in there are many, and I cannot off the top of my head recite all of them.
Investigations into activities of Jada were prompted by a Joy News expose revealing rot which disadvantaged beneficiaries and robbed the state. Kipti Andopia, Joy News, Flagstaff House.
Well, President John Mahama has met with security chiefs at the Flagstaff House ahead of the delivery of the Supreme Court's verdict tomorrow. Officials at the presidency, however, say it is a routine review meeting with the Commander-in-Chief and not so much about the ruling. The meeting is said to have reviewed the general security situation and is the fourth such this year. After 8 long months of legal battle, Judgment Day in the election petition is almost with us. In less than 24 hours, the 9 justices hearing the case will deliver their verdict. Joy News' Eric Curtis Howard has been to the court premises to assess preparations ahead of Thursday's landmark ruling.
It's 8 a.m. Wednesday morning, and the premise of the Supreme Court is filled with police officers putting in place the necessary security arrangements to ensure an incident-free day.
We have arrangements in place to take care of this proceeding, the court case. So it is not going to be only for the Thursday, except that the subsequent day's arrangement will be reviewed or revised to take care of the exigencies of the time. You understand it? If it happens that nothing untoward happens, we review it to meet the situation. We don't totally withdraw because it is not even security-wise. or it's not wise in terms of security to withdraw. For all you know, people are only going on hibernation and strike later. So it is in place for a period long after the court case determination. And in the unlikely event of some disturbances immediately after the court case, definitely then the security will also be strengthened.
Moves to block some major routes and divert traffic as some interventions have already started. The police are again warning all persons without the requisite accreditation not to trespass their 100 meters radius.
We are doing this to ensure that we're able to have a more fruitful, peaceful, and event-free court case today on a Thursday. And so we are calling on the general public to bear with us. It is just a short while of inconvenience, and they should bear with that. It is for the sake of Madagana.
The Supreme Court itself is relatively quiet, with court clerks and other staff going about their routine work, having rescinded their strike action. Judicial service staff will not speak to the news team on camera, but many confirm the workload at the court has increased in anticipation of Thursday's ruling. They also confirmed all courts, including the High Court and the Magistrate Court, will not sit tomorrow. Whereas the parties involved in the hearing are optimistic of a ruling in their favor, Ghanaians are being advised to maintain the peace after the court's verdicts. Thursday's judgment is seen as another test of the country's fledgling democracy, and at the same time, precedent to be referenced in future cases. More importantly, however, many are hopeful the country's elections will never be the same again. Eric Curtis Howard, Joy News.
Right, we were bringing you more stories on the election petition. But right now, a 30-year-old neglected and deplorable Boete Primary School in the Kpong, Katamanso district of the Greater Accra region has received a 14,000 Ghana cedis grant from Nexans Cable Metal Ghana Limited to undergo renovation. Schooling has been a nightmarish experience for both pupils and teachers for years, forcing parents to send their wards to other schools as far as 2 kilometers from the town, despite the risk of being drowned in the Volta River.
The Boete Primary School was first established by community members in the 80s. Government later on built an additional 3 classroom block to add to the existing structure. The school has not seen any major renovation since. Its proximity to the sea has also exposed it to the vigors of the breeze, a situation which is further compounded by the storms which rip off the school's roofs. This explains the use of these blocks to support the roof. Due to space limitation, palm fronds partitioned the headmaster's office from one of the classrooms.
But for 5 years that the teachers' quarters was started, it is not still completed. This is a major challenge, and the children are being transferred to various schools because when they come and they don't get teachers to teach them, they can do nothing than to live for other schools that they will be happy with.
With the current state of these classrooms, most of the primary students either abandon school or cross the Volta River to Kpong for their schooling. But crossing the river comes with its risks.
Well, sometimes we are going to the school, the canoe, some part of it links, so the water has been entering it. Some of the children too, they are small. So if there is no canoe there, unless they turn their back and go.
Nexans Cable Metal Ghana Limited says the donation is in fulfillment of its corporate social responsibility as part of its 45th anniversary.
It's not the first time that we've done this charity to them. About 2 years ago, we did a similar thing to them. We gave them chairs, we gave them school uniforms, we gave them money to dig a borehole at one of their sites there. And having chalked 45 years, we thought that we should share some of our glories with these little kids in this village.
The residents expressed gratitude for the gesture as the rehabilitation will improve teaching and learning, but appealed for others to help give them access to potable water, another challenge they are having to live with.
Right, we have more news coming up. Stay tuned. Now, former Supreme Court Judge Vincent Cyril Richard Arthur Charles Crabb, or VCRAC Crabb, is vouching for the integrity of the judges who are set to give that important ruling tomorrow and who really won the 2012 presidential elections. The retired judge is calling on Ghanaians to believe in the country's system of justice because Supreme Court judges are very, very objective. We spoke to Samson Ladia Yenini.
1970. And then you had the coup in 1972. The Supreme Court was abolished. I went to the High Court. In 1979, when we had the Supreme Court again, I was again one of the first 4 judges to be appointed to the Supreme Court. So I have the distinction I always boast of being the only person in this country who has been appointed twice to the Supreme Court.
And also, very special circumstances indeed. You have had the opportunity of being a part of almost every of the constitutions that this country has had. A part of the making of the constitutions.
Yes, 1957, when we had the Independence Constitution, I was then a little boy in the Attorney General's Department, and we had a little part to play. I was also part of the 1960 Constitution, which was drafted mainly by my boss, a man called F.A.R. Benyon from London, but I worked with him, and Mr. Chinere Hesse, the two of us. Benyon drafted the bill, but we helped him. And then the ancillaries to the 1960 Constitution, Chinere Hesse and I were responsible for all the drafts which went to the Constituent Assembly.
And again, as if a special coincidence, you have had the opportunity, and I'm talking in relation to the current election petition, you have had the opportunity to be the Electoral Commissioner of this country.
Well, I was Ghana's first Electoral Commissioner. I was interim Electoral Commissioner, and I established the Electoral Commission, which I'm happy to say is still functioning, thank God.
Now, presently, you are the man behind the scenes helping with the revision or reforms of the laws of this country. You have been doing that for quite some time now, and you're still very active teaching students the law.
Yes, at the moment I'm conducting a course in legislative drafting for Commonwealth students. We have about 38 who are learning legislative drafting, some from Ghana, some from African countries. Quite a handful.
All right. You certainly are a man of very many parts, and like I said earlier, you have paid your dues to this country. We have come to yet another momentous moment in this country. The Supreme Court, which you were a part of, is expected to deliver its judgment in the historic election petition challenging the election of His Excellency the President John Dramani Mahama. We want you to walk us through what the practice is after the judges have heard all the evidence, have listened to the testimonies, have heard the addresses of have heard and also read the addresses of the Council for Petitioners and also for the respondents. How does the court go about arriving at the judgment?
I think I should first start by saying that the Supreme Court is a place where you have a lot of great intellect. The people on the Supreme Court are first-class chaps. They know the law, they know the society in which they live. Above all, they have experience. Some of them started from the very beginning and have reached the top. Some of them have come from academia. So it's an intellectual atmosphere. Now, with that background, every problem which comes before them is not looked at from only one angle. What is the law? How does the law fit into our society? How do you apply the law to the facts which are before you? That's very, very important, because you are dealing with facts which have been placed before you. And the most important part is the evaluation of what you have heard. A person in the witness box is giving evidence. You are looking at the person, how he reacts to a question, his demeanor. You are watching all that. That gives you an idea as to whether you're going to accept the evidence that person has given or you are not going to accept that evidence. Supreme Court judges are very, very objective, yet they also know that we live in a society and we are dealing with human beings, and they take that also into account. But the law is paramount.
Great. When you are dealing with a sole jurist, as in a single judge, it is very obvious that that judge alone goes through the process of determining the evaluation of the evidence, as you have just enumerated, and coming out with his judgment on a matter.
Yes.
But we have a situation where you have 9 justices.
Yes.
How will they go about coming out with their judgment?
As I said from the beginning, it's an intellectual atmosphere.
Right.
Therefore, each judge makes his own evaluation. That does not prevent him from discussing an issue with another colleague, but he has to make up his own mind.
All right, we'll be bringing you the entire interview with Justice V. CRC Crabb tomorrow. So it's part of our comprehensive coverage of the delivery of the Supreme Court verdict. Make a date with us, just like we brought you the election headquarters. We remain your election headquarters, and certainly you won't go wrong staying or keeping your channel locked right here on Joy News on Multi TV. In other news, students of Bancoman Senior High School will now heave a sigh of relief in learning information communication technology. This is because the school has been provided with computers for practical work. A report by Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin.
With a student population of 341, Bankoma Senior High School in the Setre, Kumewu district is challenged with infrastructural development. School authorities say work on most of the government-initiated projects has been moving at a very slow pace. Students sit in pairs on a desk due to lack of furniture in the school. This has also impinged on teaching and learning process. Since its establishment in 2009, students are yet to have a comprehensive learning of ICT. Students are yet to benefit from comprehensive learning of ICT. Despite the benefits that ICT offers to learning processes, Bancoman Senior High School does not have access to computers and internet. This, according to tutors, made teaching and learning very complicated. They explain that whenever it is time for ICT lessons, only the theoretical aspect is dealt with. Computer and accessories are drawn on the board for lessons. Responding to their plight, Member of Parliament for Kumewu Philip Baswa has presented 15 sets of computers and UPS to the school. This is to aid the teaching and learning of ICT.
All that we have to do to help the school uplift its image, we have to do it. We know that you have a problem with some infrastructure development. You have a problem with that. If I need to liaise with the District Assembly, I will do so. Wherever way possible that I can exploit to get some of the infrastructure development for the school so that the teachers and the classroom problem wouldn't be a problem, I will do the little that I can.
Headmaster of the school, Mohammed Brako, was grateful for the gesture.
Being a new school, the school has limited resources, limited facilities. There are so many challenges that the school is facing. And in fact, this presentation is going to help us in a way to solve at least one of the challenges that the school is facing.
The Parliamentary Select Committee on Finance has paid a working visit to the site for the gas processing plant currently under construction at Tutuabo in the Elembele district of the Western region. The visit was to afford the members a first-hand opportunity to witness progress of work and deliberate over challenges that are likely to affect the completion of work.
Members of the committee were first briefed by the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Gas Company, Dr. George Sipayanki. He told them work is progressing steadily with major works on the laying of pipelines and foundation completed. Dr. Yankee also disclosed to the Finance Committee that works on erecting of most equipment for the main gas plant is already completed and a clear evidence of their strive to ensure the completion of the project by the end of this year or early part of next year. He, however, mentioned funding as a major challenge confronting the project, but was quick to add that government has already resolved that through the CBD loan. The committee, led by the chairman as well as some officials from both the Ghana Gas Company and Sinopec, who are the main contractors of the project, toured the site of the gas plant to familiarize themselves with the progress of work so far.
We initially do not have enough money to pay for crops that we have destroyed in the course of the construction. However, we're able to pay some. We still have some outstanding, and these owners have been at the fruit. But we've been able to sort of make them appreciate the fact that what you're doing is for the good of everybody, and two, to convince them that the money should be forthcoming. Right now, we have a standing amount of about 7 million Ghana cedis to pay to owners of crops. Then before we come to pay for the land that you've already acquired, and luckily, Land Valuation Board has finished assessing the value of the land.
The chairman of the committee, James Avezi, was impressed with the progress of work so far and added their visits will help them identify the problems confronting the project, adding they will go in consultation with the Minister of Finance to offer all the needed financial support for the completion of the project.
We've been made to know the level of completion. There are a few challenges in terms of disbursement of funds and other local challenges, but I consider those challenges to be issues that can be surmounted, and therefore the planned completion dates, which have been shifted to probably end of this year or first quarter of next year, we hope that the gas will start flowing.
A member of the committee, Akoto Osei, also gave his impression about the state of the project.
I think there's no doubt about it. Very robust rate of return. But that can be shut out if you don't complete certain plans. Money from the Ministry of Finance, negotiations with Talo and so forth. So I think the committee has given us an opportunity to physically visit the site, see what the money is being put into, so that when we are arguing for pushing the government to accelerate its work, we are able to do it.
It's been 8 months of a constant barrage of legal proceedings beamed live on various television stations and radio stations, supported by extensive commentary. The election petition has enlightened many about what takes place at the Supreme Court and whipped up interest in the legal profession. There are others, however, who were not so tuned in and so not so abreast, as we found out on the streets of Accra today.
The main idea was to find out which part of the proceedings stuck with the public.
A new term is the obvious amicus curiae, and also I don't trust you one bit. On the face of the pink seat, you and I were not there. Those are the humorous terms I gathered so far.
You and I were not there.
Amicus curiae.
When we was cross-examining the EC, right, where he was asking for the definition. He was specifically asking of a definition of something, that is overvoting. And then, the way this man responded, that there's a technical definition, and then later he said he was confused with issues. Those some of us, we sit behind the screen and then we start laughing with those issues, right? And then amicus curiae, this issue also came up, and then most of the terms he was using, even though we don't understand, but we just enjoy some of their terms they are using.
The public was also asked which of the 4 main lawyers impressed them the most.
Lawyer Ayukweotu.
Mr. Chachu Chikata of NDC. I think he's a kind of a lawyer who approaches issues in a direct manner.
The one I remember most happens to be Chachu Chikata. He's impressed me a lot. His attitude has not been the best, but he's left a legacy on my mind.
It, however, turned out, despite the extensive coverage, there were those who couldn't be so bothered.
No, it's because I've been working and I don't think it's anything important. I'm just wasting time, so.
No, not at all. I don't really have time. So from work, I come straight to school, so I don't have time. I only listen to friends, what they say and all that.
No, not really. I watch it once a while, but following it, no. And then there was one who had no clue tomorrow was Judgment Day.
Well, I didn't follow it. I guess it will be coming in September, or I mean.
So for all those like him, Judgment Day is tomorrow, 29th of August.
Judgment Day indeed is tomorrow, 29th of August, and as I told you earlier, we're bringing you comprehensive coverage of the ruling, of the delivery of that ruling. Up next, we're bringing you business news.
Hello, good evening. It's time for business with me, Abigail Admakwenchi. Now, in business, local fund managers can now trade in a 10-year sovereign bond of $1 billion. The bond was listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange today at a rate of 7.875%. Finance Minister Setekwe says the listing will enable government raise long-term funds to finance infrastructural projects while building an efficient local bond market.
The $1 billion Eurobond is the first to be listed on the local stock market in Africa. It is, however, already trading on the Irish Stock Exchange in Dublin. Ghana currently requires an estimated
So we'll bring you that story later. Meanwhile, Chairman of the Local Bond Committee, Michael Kobler, has called for municipal bonds to be generated from property rates after the completion of the street naming process. The move, he says, will help municipal assemblies raise capital for their projects and not be over-reliant on government for funds.
The municipalities can raise money at the back of their revenues, or they can raise it as municipalities. Raising it at the back of the municipalities, you have to look at things like corporate governance, look at their revenue thresholds, and many other factors. But that is a difficult approach. If we have our house numbering system correctly and the houses are valued, people will be paying economic rates for property rates. Those property rates that we expect from those houses, go to Regimanuel, go to Legon, what do we call it? East Legon, go to airport area, you see very nice flashy houses. If you go and determine their property rates, you'll be surprised at the figures that you see. Those are not economic charges. So once we go into house numbering and we know where everybody is and houses are properly numbered, the next phase is to evaluate or value those properties. And then those properties will then attract some reasonable economic rates every year. Once you are sure that those revenues, those levies will be collected from the houses, the next step is to make sure that you have a collection system that will be able to collect those monies. And then you pledge those monies to future borrowings. So you can borrow $1 billion at the back of property rates, without having recourse to government. So government does not need to do anything or believe that it will go bust. Once we have a very good collection system and once we are charging economic rates, municipalities on their own must be able to raise bonds at the back of the revenues that they expect.
Now to our earlier story, local fund managers can now trade in a 10-year sovereign bond of $1 billion. The bond was listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange today at a rate of 7.875%. Finance Minister Setekwe says the listing will enable governments raise long-term funds to finance infrastructural projects while building an efficient local bond market.
The $1 billion Eurobond is the first to be listed on the local stock market in Africa. It is, however, already trading on the Irish Stock Exchange in Dublin. Ghana currently requires an estimated $1.2 billion each year for infrastructure development, and the listing, the minister says, will aid governments raise the needed funding.
As we consolidate our middle income status, it will be prudent to finance the capital component of the budget with long-term bonds, because we are already seeing changes in the yardstick with which Ghana is able to access financing from institutions such as the International Development Association of the World Bank, which recently changed some indicators or bases or terms on which Ghana can borrow. A well-developed local bond market will therefore be critical in government's ability to mobilize the necessary funds to support capital expenditures. In addition, such markets are necessary for enhanced financial stability and better integration into the global financial landscape.
For managers of the stock market, high interest rates continue to discourage corporate issuers from playing in the existing local bond market.
Many of the investors who want to hold on either to maturity because of the income that they receive on 6-month basis and so forth, as against equity. Equity, the income is either dividend or appreciations when the security appreciates in price. But nonetheless, the fact that if we continue the issuance in this direction, we're going to see more activity as far as the market is concerned.
The GSE managing director, however, says this should change with the issuance of the foreign bond, even though it's unlikely to be as active as the equity market. The bond already has 3 local sponsors and will offer district and municipal assemblies, public and private organizations, and other bodies to raise capital.
Now, Newmont Ghana has agreed in principle to renegotiate its mining agreement with the government of Ghana. That's according to Lands and Natural Resources Minister Inisa Husseini. Government signed the mining agreement with Newmont in 2003, but parts of the deal have become thorny. Under the Mining Act, government has the right to own up to 20% shares in any mining company, but government waived this right in the 2003 agreement, thus the country has no equity stake in Newmont. Government also waived the payment of VAT for Newmont. Civil society groups such as Wacom and Third World Network have demanded that government renegotiate the Newmont agreement. They contend the deal is bad for Ghana, which denies the country the right to maximize benefits from agreement. Now that does it for business. My name is Abigail Admakwenchi. Israel stands by with the rest of the news.
Now, the Ministries of Transport and Youth and Sports took their turn at the Public Accounts Committee hearing today. It was, however, the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority and the Railway Company Limited which attracted the most attention. The Railway Company, for instance, had no balance sheet to reflect its assets and liabilities.
The lack of a balance sheet meant that a company had no record of a 17 million Ghana cedis debt owed the Social Security and National Insurance Trust for monthly deductions made from employees' salaries. This, members of the committee found strange, but the acting MD blamed it on lack of motivation and funds to hire a qualified accountant.
For whatever reason, we can't put our hands on. It has been arrest and we are trying to catch up, as it were.
I agree you are going to capture. What is the reason? You took over, handing over nose. You should be able to know why the accounts was not prepared. If you don't know the problem, how do you solve it? So I'm asking, what is the reason why the accounts was not prepared up to date? Can you tell us the reason? If you can't, we shall call your predecessor to appear here. To come and, yes, we will summon him here to come here and answer the question why the accounts was not prepared. If you can't, but if you
to the best of my knowledge, the reason has been that we have been trying to catch up. There was a long backup. So we can't close the gap all at a go.
Did you meet an empty accounts department?
No.
So there were human beings and computers and chairs.
Yes, including yourself.
And then you, as a new financial controller, you asked them certain questions, or you didn't?
I've been, Mr. Chairman, I've been with them all this while. And what the problem that the MD is saying, I'm also aware of. We have a problem with human resource.
To the tune of 17 billion. But I'm surprised. IRS should have closed you down by now. And Slate hasn't taken you to court.
Yes, Slate have taken it to court and they have attached some of the assets to it, and even they have even sold off
some of our assets, which we are trying to repurchase.
So you see, Madam, I told you that on the face of the pink sheet, you are not seeing all the problems. You see, they gave us 2005 accounts. So the Senate court issue is not captured there, possible liability. So we don't know the real things happening in railway now.
But once you are acting, it's presupposed that at least you are qualified for the job. Were you not recording transactions in that session? At least the little money you were getting. Were you not recording transactions and preparing accounts? That's what I'm interested.
The Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority had a balance sheet all right, but also had major losses on its books. The Director General explained most of the challenges they face come from debtors such as the Tema Oil Refinery, which he says accounts for their huge losses.
Now back to the Judgment Day stories. Party officials of both the NPP and NDC have reaffirmed their commitment to accept the Supreme Court verdict, no matter the outcome. Barely 24 hours to the ruling, the two contending parties appear calm and unperturbed.
It was a calm atmosphere at both party offices. The NDC's communications director, James Asante, intimates there is no reason to panic.
It's not, life is normal here.
You're not tense.
No. Tense for what? Life goes on. Do you understand it? Everybody is happy here. I wouldn't want to be contemptuous. Do you understand? But we think that we have done our homework. We've worked so hard. We've gone around, told Ghanaians about what we can do. Our manifesto, they've believed in us. That was why they voted for us. But if somebody thinks that, well, that is not the truth, let the justices determine. Right. So we are okay here. Life is normal. We are not panicking. We are not shaking. Right.
The Deputy Communications Director of the NPP, Perio Kujeto, cautioned all party members to be calm.
There's nothing to be scared of. It's just like going to an election and waiting for the final, results to be declared. 21 years. Remember, we just celebrated 21 years last week, Thursday. So this is a formidable national party that is ready with structures at every nook and cranny of this country. We are always ready to politic.
The two are hopeful of a resounding victory. Etonam say, Joy News.
Internationally, Zimbabwe is planning to build a Disneyland in Africa at the world-famous Victoria Falls to boost tourism. This was announced by the tourism minister who said the government would spend more than $300 million on the theme park. Zimbabwe is trying to rebuild its tourism industry after a decade of conflict and hyperinflation. Now, the United States is commemorating the 50th anniversary of the March for Jobs and Freedom, the civil rights rally at which Martin Luther King Jr. made his historic I Have a Dream speech. President Barack Obama is to mark the occasion in Washington with an address from the same spot. Members of the King family and veterans of the march will also be present.
Obama, the first black U.S. president, has described the 1963 protest as a seminal event in American history. The march was considered a catalyst for civil rights reforms in the United States. President Obama is due to deliver his address at the Lincoln Memorial on a national mall just after an organized ringing of bells by churches and other groups at 15 hours local time to mark the exact time that Martin Luther King spoke on 28 August 1963. Obama will be joined by former presidents Bill Clinton and Jimmy Carter, as well as prominent African Americans.
The UK Prime Minister David Cameron says this National Security Council has agreed that the world should not stand by after the unacceptable use of chemical weapons by the Syrian government. The council, at an emergency meeting, is said to have made a recommendation which was agreed to be considered by the cabinet on Thursday. Britain has also drafted a UN resolution authorizing necessary measures to protect civilians.
Earlier, Cameroon said the UN resolution condemns the chemical weapon attack by Syrian President Assad. The Syrian government has denied it is responsible for a suspected chemical attack near Damascus on 21st August, in which hundreds of people are reported to have died, and instead blamed the opposition. The Prime Minister gathered the UK's military and security chiefs along with key cabinet ministers at number 10 Downing Street for emergency talks. The National Security Council agreed unanimously on recommendations. Details of the recommendations are unknown, but will be considered by the cabinet. It also backed the UK's draft UN resolution.
Time for the very latest in the world of sports. The list of Ghanaian players completing transfers in Europe is soaring by the minute as the end of the transfer window draws near. Midfielder Christian Achu is the latest to be linked to an English Premier League club.
Chelsea are in advanced talks to sign winger Christian Achu from Porto. Jose Mourinho is thought to be keen to land the 21-year-old before the end of the transfer window. Achu is entering the final year of his contract with Porto, and apparently a fee of about £3 million will be enough to seal the deal for Chelsea. Porto have failed in repeated attempts to extend Achu's contract and are now keen to cash in on the player as he can speak to clubs in January to set up a Bosman deal. The Ghana international first came to prominence 2 seasons ago when Porto loaned him to Rayo Ave, where Achu earned a reputation for being quick, direct and skillful. Predominantly left-sided, he has won 16 caps to date for the Black Stars, scoring 3 goals and was part of the squad that finished 4th in the Africa Cup of Nations tournament in South Africa early this year.
Ghanaian players in the transfer, of course, and Mubarak Okaso has completed his switch to Russian side Rubin Kazan from Espanyol on a $5.2 million deal. Juventus have officially loaned striker Richmond Boachiyadom to newly promoted Spanish Liga side Elche. The Ghana FA, as part of its communication strategy to reach out to Ghanaians, has launched the GFA TV. The 30-minute show would bring to viewers exclusive behind-the-scenes interviews from the camps of the various national teams. J&J Consult has been handed the arduous task of production. Operations manager of the project, Azegizar Jr., has been speaking to Joy Sports about the innovation.
Now behind this is very simple. All over the world, we have the FAs coming up with TV programs that tell their story. Ghana, we only see 11 people playing football, but we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. So we decided to come up with GFA TV that will tell the story of what goes on behind the scenes. So practically, this is why we started it. As a pastor, I'll tell you the sky is the limit, because if this is just the beginning, then watch out. Okay? The idea is to get onto as many networks as possible, bring Ghanaians exclusive footages. And you see, GFA TV we have unlimited access. That's our slogan, is unlimited. We have unlimited access to all the national teams, to the FA. So information that people do not get, we guarantee you get it on GFA TV.
Right, Communications Director of the Ghana Football Association, Ibrahim Sani Dara, says Michael Eison's call up to the national team has truly deserved. Soccer fans have been incensed over the recalling of the Chelsea midfielder, but the GFA's spokesperson believes otherwise.
Well, it is not true that he's chosen a difficult time to return to Ghana. As he told you, he gave the hints, but no one was paying attention. The last time he played in a charity match here in Accra, he said he would come for the most important game, but people were not listening. He didn't say he had given all the hints that he would be coming at a good time. And in such a big game, you need the big names. You need people who are on the stage. And you wouldn't say, yes, because he's on the bench at Chelsea, you wouldn't say that he's bad for the Black Stars. Look at his preseason form, the matches he played in preseason. That shows to us that he's in good form.
That'll be all for sports tonight. My name is George Adid Jr. Do have a great night. Israel will join us with some more.
All right, in some other news before we bring you showbiz, Joy News has obtained a copy of the government action paper on the Ministerial Impact Assessment and Review Committee on the Ghana Youth Employment and Entrepreneurial Development Agency, Jada. Essentially, the report, which government says is out, has finally come out. But this is the action paper, and it tells. I'm going to take you through, some portions of it. Now, it says critical matters arising out of the report, which is a Jada report, says inadequate institutional legal framework. That is, no law backing the establishment of NYEP and Jada, no legislative enabling instrument to operationalize the law, and then no governing board executive management team. And then it goes on. Poor corporate governance practices, and it talks about the extreme focus of power and authority at the top echelons of power, leading to situations where the deputy national coordinator, monitoring and evaluation teams, and regional coordinators were not aware of new models which had been approved and were being implemented. It goes on to say service providers disregarded regional coordinators who insisted on value for money. Another point made by the action paper says human resource deficiency and inadequate operational and administrative processes and procedures, lack of adequate financial management framework, inadequate financial oversight, inadequate project definition, evaluation and award procedures, and inadequate policy direction, control and supervision, and then loss of government documents. Now, it talks about institutional reforms and transitional measures, and then moves on to the actions and directives, which I think is a critical part of this action paper. Now, the Ministerial Impact Assessment and Review Committee admits that they do not have access to all information they would require and did not have enough time to get into proper details on certain other aspects of the report. It is also known that the committee was unable to interrogate some of the individuals mentioned in the report. Consequently, and in compliance with the principles of natural justice, IOCO and the Attorney General's Action Department, as well as the Police CID, have been directed to commence action against all persons and organizations cited in the Ministerial Committee report in respect of financial and administrative improprieties, as well as retrieval of monies to the state. And then it concludes, it should be noted that the committee admitted certain constraints it faced, including limited time for investigations and non-availability of vital documentation. These constraints should have taken into consideration to ensure that all persons and organizations mentioned in the report are treated fairly. And the government wishes to commend the members of the Ministerial Assessment and Review Committee established by the Ministry of Youth and Sport for undertaking such an important national exercise, and urge all persons and institutions assigned with responsibilities in this government action paper to act expeditiously and with a sense of urgency. So I just brought you the government action paper on the Ministerial Impact Assessment and Review Committee on Jada. But we promise you, we're just getting it. We're going to make it available on our website, myjoyonline.com, so you can go there together with a full report. Not the leaked report, but the full report is going to be available at myjoyonline.com. So just log on to our website and you get to see that. Now, in some show business news before we go, they got some flack for a nude photo of them, which found its way to the press about a fortnight ago. Then the question was whether it was a deliberate attempt or a PR stint. But one of the Kubolo, one of the FOKN boys, has in an exclusive interview with Showbiz revealed that the picture was leaked by a friend of a friend through the picture sharing site Instagram.
I mean, we did give it to I gave it to some 4 or 5 girls, and just on WhatsApp chatting, send this picture. Oh, look at some picture we took in Finland, ha ha ha, oh, you guys, that's it. And somehow one of them's friend put it on Instagram. But I mean, not to say that at one point in time we ourselves would not have put this picture out on our own personal Twitter or Instagram or something. But so it wasn't something planned so far as the timing of the release was. If we had planned to release it, then we would have added something to it, like some song talking about it, something to just capitalize on the hype. But it's just a picture that came out and hey, whatever. Now I know they fit to keep up with the ones that they in. Are they in? Me, this is not my first time, so it's just, oh, we have done it again. My mother just says, I saw already on My Joy Online that you were naked. oh, well, that's happened before. Then she just went to her room, you know, and but Mensa, wow, Mensa, he didn't like the attention. You know, Mensa is a very, you know, people were texting him, WhatsApping, DMing him in Twitter, emailing him, calling him, Skyping him. Oh, Charlie, and people are saying that's poor Mensa, but luckily I was hanging out with Reggie someday, I was being interviewed about this, and Reggie said Mensa is 10 times worse than Kobolo.
Right, that's it for the bulletin. Before we go, the quick run through our top stories. Interim management body to superintend activities of Jada as Yoko and others are tasked to take up prosecution of persons found culpable in investigative report. And we just brought you the action paper that was released by government just this evening. I promised you that we're going to put it on our website. It's not on the website yet, but we will put it up pretty shortly because you heard it first here on the bulletin. And then President Mahama has meanwhile been meeting security chiefs ahead of the Supreme Court ruling, but the Information Ministry has downplayed its linkage with the ruling. We also brought you preparations for their big day tomorrow. And then the Public Accounts Committee has chided the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority and the railway company over poor managerial practices. And first 10-year locally listed Eurobond now tradable on the Ghana Stock Exchange. That's it for the bulletin. My name is Israelai. Have a good evening.
The court case. So it is